Right, product knowledge. I'd probably say there's quite a split on the floor of people who have got a high product knowledge base on other networks and what they do. And, you know, a lot of people find it all their time kind of taking up their product knowledge. And that's fine, and I think it can work both ways. You know, the people on the floor that have got, a lot of people will have access to different websites, you know, and they'll regularly go in and check what other deals are, you know, what other networks are offering, and we'll share best practice throughout the teams and the departments. So, you know, someone in another team might check a website and say, oh, Orange is doing this deal at this price, but this is how we can counter it, and we'll send it out to everyone and share it. So I think a lot of best practice and sharing that amongst ourselves really helps. But another way to counter that for me is if the customer comes through and wants to compare what we do against what someone else does, you might not necessarily know what the other network does or what their product's like, but as long as you've got a really high product knowledge of what we do, then you can still sell our benefits based on what you know we do, even though you maybe not know what the best of the other network is, because we're going to downplay that anyway, aren't we?
Yeah, so I know. In terms of what you've said there, the advisors that do seem to have a high knowledge of the competitor products, do you find that they tend to bring in better sales targets than what the ones just that are sort of solely focus on in-house products?
Absolutely. And you know, they go the extra mile, and that's what it is. You know, they're more dedicated. It's about their sale, and you'll generally find the people that know about deals, other networks and things, they've got more of the sales instinct in them. You know, they'll fight for a sale to the death. They'll have that kind of inbred in them, and you could probably stand on the floor and I could probably point out the people that will know what other deals are going on at other networks, and you know, you can point out the people that are fantastic with handsets, and everyone have their own wee niche as well. You know, and that's the other thing. You know, not everyone will necessarily know what's going on with other networks, but they'll maybe have a higher product knowledge for internet than they would with mobile phones, and you know, different things like that. So, but definitely there are some people that go that extra mile. They'll proactively look things up on the internet. You know, they'll be checking things out in the paper and they'll bring it in. They'll share it with each other, and they spend a lot of their breaks sitting and looking through different websites to get that information. And you generally find their sales are higher, as it should be. Dedication.
You're right. What impact do you believe a rejection from a potential sale has on a salesperson in your area of expertise?
It can have quite a high impact at times, to be honest. I see quite a lot of people's heads going down, and you know, I've been guilty of it in the past myself, where you might be taking too many cancels that day, or it's not going your way, and you can physically see people's heads getting lower and lower. And we don't say, you know, their heads are going down for any other reason than physically you can see their heads getting lower and lower to the desk. And a lot of that is why one of the things I said at the start was about being resilient. You know, you really have to be like rubber and let it bounce off you, and it really does affect your next sale, you know, depending on what attitude. And it's all about choosing your attitude. Some people really take it to heart and they start getting disheartened and thinking about commission and losing the sale, losing their targets, and it really affects the next call they go on to, because much as they think they're doing the exact same thing, they're not. It's coming across, and they couldn't put their finger in how it's coming across, but the customer's hearing it, and it can affect their calls going down for the rest of the day.
I mean, a lot of the research that I've done in regards to this paper, some of the comments that I've come back with, either from previous interviews or from the literature, have been that failure should be acting as a trigger for success, or it should be seen that failure from one sale is one closer to a potential sale. Is that something that you proactively drive throughout?
I would agree with that to a certain extent, but I would say more of what I'm seeing is it's affecting people in the negative sense, where it's not so much about us then being able to drive, you know, that's your next step onto a sale, but about having to bring them back to the level that they were at in terms of their spirit that day, you know. It depends on how bad a day it is, you know. Personally, there are a lot of people who, you know, they maybe have not a great day, and yeah, they will be spurred on to do better because they don't want it to be going down. But on the flip side, a whole lot of people, when it starts to go bad, it will keep on getting worse, and I think it is all about them choosing their own attitude that day. And a lot of that will depend as well on their team members, their managers, you know, and how that sort of motivation is driven within the team.
Would you say overall that in terms of bouncing back from rejection, that is all down to the sort of character build-up of an individual person, and it's not really reflective of who else is in their team or of what their team managers tell them to do. It's all about them and how they're built as a salesperson.
Yeah, you're probably right. Actually, it is probably more ingrained in you, because if you were sitting there yourself, then you're going to go with your natural instinct, aren't you? But who's round about you is going to have an effect on how you're coming back from that. So I absolutely agree with what you said. But I think on the flip side, like, if there's people round about you who are able to pick you up and motivate you, then it'll work. But if you're not able to do it yourself, then it's not going to happen. So yeah.
Nearly there. Do you feel that training is vital to the development of a salesperson? And how would you determine the type of training required to develop a certain characteristic or attitude of an individual?
Training is probably one of... No, actually I'm going to change that. It's important, but I probably wouldn't say it's one of the most important things. I think training is more about, sitting and giving them the basics, and then I think coaching is probably more important, how you're coaching them through that and how they're putting it into practice. And you can sit and tell someone how to tie their shoelaces, and that's your training over and done with. But then practicing that every day and someone helping them to tie them and showing them the right way to do it, that's much more important. And that's probably how I would determine if someone had a training requirement. If through coaching, they weren't getting, still weren't getting it, and it was, a gap in their knowledge. And again, it would be about determining whether it was a behavioural issue or a knowledge gap. Looking maybe at past results. If they've been doing this before and they're not able to do it now, what's the reason for that? The reason they're not doing it now is, maybe because there's been a new product onto the scene and they've been off, so that they've not had it, they don't know, and they've been struggling along with it. Then definitely it's a training need, because there's a product, a space in their knowledge gap. But if they've had the training, they've been doing it for 3 months in a row, and then all of a sudden it falls off, they're just choosing not to do it, then obviously it's behaviour, so then it wouldn't be a training need. So it'd be quite a lot looked at.